Hi again, everyone. Welcome into UnAnchored Boston. And as always, we are brought to you by Cold Springs RV, your destination for all things camping. And where? We're in New Hampshire, of course, and by the big wheel they call him, the great George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota.
How come you always open the show?
Because you said you didn't have a script.
Okay, well, I probably would have memorized by now, but I'm sorry. Steve Buckley's here as our guest, but I just thought we'd maybe try something different once in a while. But you just open the show all the time. It's like
I'm all for it. But let's go. You take it away, Bob.
You see, Bob, that piece of paper that Lynch was holding is called a script. Something
I don't have one.
Something you never used during your years at Channel 4.
This is true.
I never did either.
Yeah. Well, Steve Buckley is our guest, and this, if we're going to reverse the roles, Mike never allows me to talk about the guest and his background. So take it away, Mike. Go ahead. Steve's here. You booked him. We're happy to have him back.
He's Cambridge Latin High School, not to be confused with originally Latin High School, the University of Massachusetts, and other things. How's that?
It's great. The last time you had me on, you had me from North Cambridge, which is where Tip O'Neill is from. I was from Central Square in Cambridge, which is a different neighborhood. So,
are you done, Mike? Because I'd like to move on with the show. No, I'm just saying. Steve,
you look better than you looked last week.
Thank you very much. Well,
you're off his golf cart head first, and
that's true, Steve. I did.
He looks good today.
This was a lot of bruises, a lot of whatever.
I cleaned myself up. Yes.
So sympathy. All right. Let's take the Celtics out of the mix, you guys. This is for both of them. Take them out of the mix, because we know the obvious answer to the question. If we leave the Celtics in the mix, which team, Patriots, Bruins, or Red Sox, is going to provide the next Boston championship? Taking the Celtics out of the mix, because we know that's, maybe a foregone conclusion, but certainly an obvious answer. So you tell me. Bruins?
That's a great question to phrase it that way.
Thank you very much. Well, that's why we changed the show around, so we can get a little life into it.
I think I'll steal it and write it for a column tomorrow for the Athletic.
Yeah, good.
I would say the Patriots solely because they have their guy, the most important position in all of sports is quarterback, and they have a guy that everyone seems to think, including myself, that he's going to be one of the good ones. That's number one. And number two, I remember the Jacksonville Jaguars when they were an expansion team, like in the second or third year, they're in the playoffs, and it just shows to illustrate that in football, the manner in which players are acquired through free agency and non-drafted signings and the draft and so forth, it's easier to turn around a football team than a baseball team or a hockey team. So in that spirit, I would say the Patriots.
And Michael?
I was going to go with the hockey team because I think they're 2/3 of the way there. And the football team's got a long way to go. I really don't know who the real Patriots are. The 3 victories are against, at the time, Cincinnati was a crappy team. The Jets, who are a crappy team, and the Bears, who look like the worst team I've ever seen. Now, it was a great defensive effort, but the Bears are one of the worst football teams in the NFL. So I'm playing the old TV show, Will the Real Patriots, to tell the truth, will the real New England?
Well, I would counter by saying that you said the Bengals were a bad team. It was opening day. It was first game of the season, and I can't speak for the rest of the country, but I was there. And in Cincinnati, they had very high expectations for that team in 2024. Now, here in Boston, I don't think we were going Bengals crazy, and the punditry and the experts probably weren't forecasting a Super Bowl appearance, but Cincinnati, there were some really angry people after that effort against the Patriots.
How you think they were angry in Chicago yesterday?
Well, and there again, they came into that game at 4-4. They were in last place.
And they were 6-point favorites.
And they were 6-point favorites, but the top team in that division is like 5-4, and they're 4-4. So they were technically in the mix. Whereas I think the Patriots, because of the division they're in and the way the AFC is playing out, I think they would have to run the board and still get some luck to make the playoffs. But the Bears went into that game statistically a playoff contender. So, and if you lay it back to back, the Patriots have won 2 out of 3. If they beat the Rams on Sunday at Foxborough, that's 3 out of 4, and it's nothing to sneeze at. So, and they're playing for Mayo. There's obviously lots of problems in the team. They don't have an offensive line, a deep playoff run offensive line. They need a wide receiver who's a real diva, one of those guys that throw me the ball and I'll catch it and I'll get yards after catch and so forth. They don't really have that guy. You may think Polk will be that guy down the road, but they need to improve in that area too. So they're a ways off, but you see little kernels of optimism there.
I still don't know who the real Patriots are, and I love the quarterback. I still think he should have been playing from day one.
I agree.
I don't. What's the point of holding him back? Hold him back for what? I mean, every other team that drafted a quarterback in the first round is playing the quarterback, and it would have been Minnesota would have had that J.J. McCarthy if he didn't get hurt in the preseason. I don't understand. One thing I feel bad. I made this thing last week, and Buck, you can appreciate this because you grew up here. Every time Drake May runs and gets tackled, his helmet looks like Major Mud. It's turned sideways. He's looking out through the ear hole. And I wish he'd learn how to slide.
This is gonna ruin your demo, but I was actually on Major Mud and for those who don't know, it was a kiddie show on Channel 7. Was it Ed McDonald? Was that his name?
Gibby. Yeah. Well, I know. I'll be blasting you.
I'll be blasting you. Yeah, but the guy who played Major Mud was.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know his real name.
But he played like an astronaut, and I was on his show when I was about 10 or 11 years old. So you would send in for tickets, and Channel 5 had Bozo and Lobel. You guys had Rex Trailer.
Rex Trailer and Popo.
Yeah, and Pablo.
And Lobel, the Christmas elf, or whatever you were.
You were a reindeer, weren't you?
Oh my God! Let me bring this back to.
It's a sign of the times when it's Bob Lobel is taking us back to the normalcy.
My prediction on this team thing is that in our lifetime, none of those teams are going to win another championship. It doesn't say we're old and we're getting down to it, but I don't think in our lifetime we're going to see another championship from either one of those 3 teams.
Okay, so I'll take that with some seriousness and counter you with this. In 2006, did you think the Celtics were 2 years away from a championship? The answer is no.
No, but that's true. That 2008 or whatever it was the great year of all 3 of them.
Right. So what I'm saying is, but if you had said in 2006, I don't think we'll see a Celtics championship.
Yeah, but I took the Celtics out of the loop. But
okay.
I think it's a lot easier for
Let's go to the 2012 Red Sox. They fired Francona the year before. 2012, they got Valentine there. It's a complete mess. They're a floppy, lousy, boring team. Did you think that the Red Sox were 1 year away from winning the World Series?
They had talent. They had players.
Okay, I'll give you the 2000 Patriots.
Steve, they were close to the Red Sox of today.
I'll give you one more. The 2000 Patriots. Bill Belichick's first year as coach. Third string quarterback is Brady. They've got Bledsoe at quarterback. They've got nothing. They're still playing at Old Foxborough Stadium. They opened the season with a bad loss. They went 6-10, I think, that year. Did you think the Patriots in the year 2000 were 1 year away from winning the Super Bowl and launching a dynasty?
No, of course not.
So what I'm saying is to look at, and I'll play your game and take the Celtics out of it, but to look at the Bruins, Red Sox, and Patriots right now, and won't win a championship in our lifetime. And I like to think that the three of us are going to be around for another 10 or 15 years.
And
They will win a championship in our lifetime. All three of them will. That's been the history. All four teams have won. The Bruins have only won one, but this is the century for Boston greatness. And there's an expectation that these teams will do it. And I think I'm not optimistic about the Red. Maybe they go out and sign one of these big ticket free agents. I don't know. But until I see it, the Red Sox are sort of in the docket. I'm optimistic about the Patriots. I don't know what to make of the Bruins because, DuPont had a pretty good piece in the Globe the other day.
A fantastic piece. That was one of the best pieces I've ever. I mean, Dupes is a great writer, but he really overdid him. He outdid himself on that piece.
He had a line in there, and I texted him about it, and he says, this power play with one defenseman and four forwards isn't working. And so and again, they have a power play with one, McAvoy and four forwards on the power play. So I sent him a text and I said, hey, pal, it worked pretty good with Orr, Stanfield, Busick, Esposito, and Hodge, which is one defenseman and four forwards. So I said, it worked pretty good with those guys. And that led to a little back and forth between us. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was really a great article. Well, okay, that satisfies my first question, and we are in agreement. I'd have to line up close to Lynch on this one, and I think the Bruins probably have the best chance of certainly the Red Sox, and I don't see the Patriots. I mean, you take a look at these teams in this league. It's crazy. I mean, if they wanted parity, they got it. I mean, take a look at the Lions the other day. The best team in the league right now, the Lions. Take a look at what happened. Take a look at Miami last night, and who would have thought that Miami would have come back beat the Rams of where they've been earlier in the season? I mean, it's crazy what's going on in the NFL. So
it's not so much parity. Parity, as we always assign that word to Pete Rozelle, but when we speak of parity, it's like every team being around 500 and you go to the playoffs and any team can win. What we're seeing this year, I've never seen so many bad teams in one season.
Maybe that's it right there.
Right there. Buckley hit the nail on the head. There were some really awful teams. I mean, really bad teams. Start with the team we saw Sunday.
Yeah. And if you got two bad teams
which one?
playing each other.
Jacksonville, Chicago, the Jets, Cleveland Browns, on and on we go. I'm in a it's not a survivor pool, but you have to pick one winner every week, and then if you win, you win the differential. In other words, if you had the Patriots the other day, they won. You got 16 points, so they won 19-3. And it used to be pretty easy to pick just pick one winner every week, and it's hard. It's hard to pick.
Who you got in Buffalo, Kansas City next week?
I'd have to pick Kansas City because they find what they are. What we lived through for this for the first 2 decades of this century.
I'm taking Buffalo.
Even if they're playing bad, they wait for the other teams to shoot themselves in the foot, to bury themselves, and to lose the game. And then that's how the Kansas City is winning a lot of football games.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. They are the well-oiled machine that we saw for 20 years down in Bucks. I agree with that.
Yeah. And the old what's the old Chinese thing? Waiting for the bodies floating by, and let your enemies defeat themselves. Or many of these battles are won before they're even fought.
One of the things that really I don't want to say amuses me about the Patriots in the last couple of years is two things that maybe some fans don't notice, but they probably do, but haven't really thought about it. Is number one, all the games are at 1 o'clock now, and because that's not the prime time window. 4 o'clock's a bigger window. Obviously, the night game is a huge window, and we, including the two of you, made so many trips down to Foxborough over the years for 8 o'clock starts, and you guys are going live afterwards, and you get home at 3:30 in the morning, and you feel like crap for 2 days. And now every game is at 1 o'clock. You drive down, you're home by 7:30 or 8 o'clock, have dinner. That's number one. And number two, we were so used to seeing Iron Eagle do the games and Jim Nantz do the games and all these like celebrity play-by-play guys who make millions of dollars a year doing the games, making like Lobel Lynch money, huge money. and now I have to go like Google who's this guy. It's always like some 24-year-old kid from Syracuse who's doing the play. I'm exaggerating, but you don't get the celebrity announcers anymore. And it's like as I wrote in The Athletic the other day, you had the past, the present, and the future of the Patriots in one day. The present was seeing Drake May make some of those plays. The future is envisioning what he could be down the road if they get complimentary players. The past was Gronk jumping out of the helicopter before the game into the and the Sikorsky Seahawk naval helicopter. And I'm like, it was a reminder that in the old days nothing was impossible for the Patriots. And here we have Gronk. Nothing's impossible. Gronk jumping out of a helicopter. So I don't know if other people notice that, but I do. As someone, I go to all the home games. I've been to 3 road games. I'll be in Miami in a few weeks, and the 1 o'clock starts and the lack of celebrity announcers is really like this is what the Patriots have become.
Yeah.
Well, if Drake May doesn't learn how to slide, he's not going to be selling insurance next year. Besides not playing pro football,
I agree with that, and it's something I wrote for years about Bogarts on the Red Sox. He had this nauseating habit of sliding headfirst into first base, and you do not gain speed. Somebody might have been Bob Ryan, got like an MIT physics professor or something like 20 years ago, who posits that you physically cannot gain speed by if you're running full speed. Now you've got to slide, and to say nothing of the fact that you might hurt your shoulder or something. But to apply that to what we're seeing now, it's laudable that he's tough and resilient and tries to grind out the extra yard. But even Grogan, who was the great running quarterback of a different era, even he mostly slid. He wasn't like leading with his shoulder to get the extra 6 inches.
Well, in last night's game, in the Miami game, they referred to that helmet that Tua was wearing, right?
Yeah.
The Guardian helmet?
Guardian helmet, yeah.
My immediate question right away, if that's supposed to protect him, why isn't everybody wearing one of those?
Because they don't look cool. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, it's seriously this is a serious problem.
Like you're wearing bubble wrap,
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
I think
if it's there to protect him, why isn't everyone wearing them?
I probably should be up on that topic. I'm not.
All right, and I'm just saying, I didn't realize the helmet was till I saw it last night, and they pointed out.
It may just be that when they came out with. I hate to keep going football to baseball, but when they came out with the air flap, and a lot of guys didn't like the air flap at first because they thought you couldn't pick up the pitch or something. And of course, now everybody has the air flap. So I don't know. That's a good question.
Did you see Tua when he threw the interception? He took a knee right to the head. He tried to make the tackle with his helmet.
Yeah.
I would say, what is he doing? He should have a free pass from the coaching staff. I don't care if the guy he's the only guy between an opponent and the goal line. Just get out of the way and give him the Ole Matador treatment and let him go in. But
it's nice of you to say that, but that the fans and certain pundits, would say, "Hey, it's football," like that. So I agree with you. Listen. I've said this for years. Football, and you played the game. Football is a brutal, barbaric sport. It is today. It was then. I mean, you can counter that the equipment is better and the medical staff is better, but the players are bigger. They're enormous, and and the way they play the game is pretty crazy. So, in the spirit of people living long lives, I would agree with that. But if you're watching the game, particularly in this day and age where everyone's betting on the games, if you've got if your wager depends on whether Tua makes that tackle on that guy on an interception or whatever, you want that guy to make the tackle. So,
Steve,
Yeah,
you remember the base? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lynchy.
no, Bob, I always defer to you.
Well, that's really kind of you. Yeah, you remember the Baseball Writers of America. Why isn't Tiant and Evans? Why aren't they in the Hall of Fame?
I think they both should be. I spoke with Dan Tiant, Louis' son, last week, and I've written about Dewey also. I believe they both should be in the Hall of Fame. Part of the problem is that there are two kinds of voters for the Hall of Fame. There's what they call the big hall voter and the small hall voter. And the small hall voter is the voter who believes that the Hall of Fame should be sacred territory for the truly great players, the Seavers, the Willie Mays, Hank Aaron's, and Yaz's, and so forth, and not for the Jim Rices and players like Ron Santo and so forth. I happen to feel differently. If you look throughout the entire history of the Hall of Fame, there are players in the Hall of Fame you've never heard of, not just because they were managers or broadcasters, but they were players, and they got in the Hall of Fame because of the way they were viewed when they played, or because they went to a veterans committee. Like Rogers Hornsby, who's one of the great players of all time, was on the veterans committee, and during his time, and he was a very demonstrative, loud guy with personality, and he got a lot of his old Cardinals buddies in the Hall of Fame. So don't turn around 100 years later and say, oh, we can only have Walter Johnson and Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb and Willie Mays and so forth in the Hall of Fame. I believe that Jim Rice was a great player and that he should be in the Hall of Fame. I believe that Louis Tiant was a great player. He should be in the same with Dwight Evans. And I've written this. 1,000 other people have written it. I invite your viewers and listeners to go to Baseball Reference and look up Louis Tiant's lifetime numbers. Then look up Catfish Hunter's lifetime numbers, and then look up Don Drysdale's lifetime numbers. They are remarkably similar. Drysdale got in the Hall of Fame in his 10th try. Catfish Hunter got in on his, I believe, 3rd try. Now, they played on World Series winners. I get that.
Right.
But they were also higher profile players playing in bigger markets and got a lot more media attention, and I think that was part of it. Tiant, it's not his fault that he didn't win 5 World Series. He was in 1 and was 2-0, and I think won 2 games against Oakland in the LCS. So he was a big game pitcher who put up numbers, 421 seasons, just a Hall of Famer in my book.
Fair enough.
Do you think that broadcasters should have certain broadcasters should have a vote in the Hall of Fame, or is it strictly?
No, I don't. And they do have if you get the Ford Frick Award, which Joe Castig got this year, he automatically becomes a voter for the next Ford Frick Award. And I know that's not what you're talking about. The issue I have, and it gets very muddy, which I'll explain in a minute, is that the reason the broadcasters have never had a vote is because, by and large, they work for the team, or they are approved by the team. And because of that, I don't think they should vote for the Hall of Fame. I also think broadcasters tend to be more fanish than the writers, and the writers take a more critical view of things, which I think is required. I think the BBWAA has done a great job over the years. As I wrote just last week, there have been misses. They missed on Tiant, and they certainly missed over the last 100 years in that it took that long, by 80, 90 years, for the writers to agree unanimously on a candidate. That's when Mariano Rivera got 100% of the vote. Who didn't vote for Henry Aaron for the Hall of Fame? Who did not vote for Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb? Uh, I've never really understood that, but yet at the end, I believe the BBWA does a fantastic job. And they missed on Fred McGriff. There was another one. I may have already mentioned that. Where it gets cloudy is that, well, John Henry now owns the Boston Globe. And Pete Abraham, then, who's the Hall of Fame voter, Dan Shaughnessy, Hall of Fame voter, the Globe writers who have Hall of Fame votes, well, can you not now argue that, well, they work for John Henry? Well, I like to think there's enough of a buffer there. John Henry can't fire Pete Abraham. I mean, I suppose he could, but I think there's enough of a buffer between the ownership of the Red Sox and his ownership of the Globe trickling down. I mean, Shaughnessy's been very critical of the Red Sox in recent years, and he hasn't been fired. So, if a play-by-play is a good way to do it. If a play-by-play guy was as critical of the Red Sox as I have been and Shaughnessy has been, would the play-by-play guy still have his job? The answer is no.
No.
So that's why they shouldn't vote for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Look at Ned Martin and Jim Woods, right?
Yeah. So
start right there. Hawk Harrelson
yeah.
Was sent packing because he spoke at some place in Lowell, and Charlie Scoggins wrote about it, and then Haywood Sullivan read it, and see you later.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking of guys like Vin Scully. That does he not have enough credibility to be Hall of Fame? Bob Prince, guys like that. That's. I'm not talking about Mike Lynch and Bob Lobel at the local level. I'm talking.
You're talking about Costas and Joe Buck and Jack Buck, his father, and these guys. That are national figures.
Yeah, but why stop there? I mean,
because I can't think of anybody else. That's
well,
why
no,
I
I'm thinking of
there.
like a guy who's not like Ken Coleman. Certainly, Ken Coleman, who's never did get the Ford Frick Award. I thought that he should have. I don't want to turn this into a separate argument, but people always say, why isn't Ned Martin in the Hall of Fame? I ask a bigger question: why isn't Ken Coleman in the Hall of Fame? For my money, and I may be clouded by the Impossible Dream record album, but I thought Ken Coleman's ability to keep you in the game, keep you interested, and to bring panache to the big play was in a class by itself. And that certainly, to take nothing away from Ned Martin with that dry sense of humor, but he was very low key in the big moments, and I thought Ken Coleman. And again, I'm not saying that because I choose one over the other, they both should be in the Hall of Fame. But Ken Coleman, for me, was just a great play-by-play guy.
What about Gowdy?
Gowdy is in the Hall of Fame, though.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and Gowdy, my entree to the Red Sox was with Kurt Gowdy and Art Gleason, maybe, and Mel Parnell, I think, were doing the games back then. And I remember this is what a kid thinks. I remember being so proud that my play-by-play guy, Kurt Gowdy, was like leaving to do the game of the week on NBC. And 20 years later, whenever I would see Kurt Gowdy, I was just, look what this little guy doing the Red Sox. I didn't know then he was from Wyoming and he had started out in New York. But in my view, he was a kid who grew up in a three-decker in Dorchester who ended up doing the game of the week. But that's how that, and again, he was obviously one of the great ones.
Let me, when you mentioned Gronk jumping out of the helicopter, what do you make of the fuss over Michael Strahan not putting his hand over his heart when the anthem was played the other day? I think it's preposterous if you know Michael Strahan, his background, but it's one of the shortcomings of social media. It gives a platform to people who really shouldn't have a platform.
I wished I had read up on that because I'm actually doing something on that. And I was just beginning. I got up at 7. I was reading up on it. I wish I had a better formed opinion because I don't yet. I haven't read all the stuff I want to see. But based on what I have seen, I agree with you. And I didn't listen, even if he didn't put his hand on his heart, and if he didn't do it for political reasons, well, that's freedom of expression and so forth. And we need to remember in this country that we still have that right. But I can't find a rule. And again, I haven't done all my work yet on this, so I have to choose my words carefully. I didn't believe it was a rule that you had to put. I thought that was for uniformed personnel. And maybe I'm wrong. I do not put my hand on my chest for the national anthem. I'm also not on live television. I'm just standing in the press box. What does piss me off is that sometimes you have the odd writer who's doing what we call the early column or the plug column. They've got to get something in to put on the website before the game. Or for the first edition, we used to call it the plug piece. And they're sitting there during the national anthem because, ooh, I'm on deadline. I'm so important. And to which I say, just stand up for 2 minutes, for crying out loud. And but I don't feel strongly enough about it to go up and get in a big fight with that person. So I can tell you, in the interest of disclosure, that I stand up for the national anthem. I love the national anthem. I love the pageantry of it. I actually got in trouble once at the Garden about 25 years ago. I was in the old Garden. I was in that media room in the end zone, and you come down this, and it was a Celtics game, and I wanted to be at my seat courtside. In the old days, we sat courtside. I wanted to be there for the national anthem. It was always like that. And I was hurrying to get down there. And then when I was on the floor heading to my seat, and the national anthem started, and I'm still walking, and this big grumpy usher said, "You stop at the national anthem." And he put his finger out. He actually touched my throat. And people saw that, and that got reported. And I got a call from the union the next day. Am I going to press charges? I go, no, I'm not going to press charges. I just want you to know I was trying to get to my seat because I like the national anthem. I apologize for the tangent, but I didn't have a problem with Strahan, and I think to somehow recast him as un-American or whatever is, and again, I'm doing something on that. So,
Well, of course, his dad served in the Army for 27, well, nearly 30 years, 27, 28 years. He grew up on an Army base in Germany. He has a special charity for veterans. And I agree. Like, I'm trying to think myself. I don't think I put my hand over my heart. I would say if I've been present for 10,000 national anthems, maybe 20 of them I might have put my hand over my heart. I just maybe you never don't know what to do with your hands, obviously, all the time. Do I put my hands behind my back? Do I collapse them in front of me? And that's what he was doing. He didn't take a knee. He didn't turn his back. He was just standing there. And, you know, the camera caught all 5 of those guys at attention. It was a great show, by the way. And I think there's too much is being made of this. And, you know, the poor guy's taking the high road. He's not even coming in and making excuses. He's just, he can't be bothered with it.
the one time I can remember putting my hand over my heart was after 9/11. I was in New York because the Sox were supposed to play the Yankees the night before, and the game got rained out. So I was in New York City that morning. I ended up staying there. It was still with the Herald in those days, and I ended up staying there for a couple of weeks covering 9/11. And that Saturday, like 4 or 5 days later, they had the funeral for Michael Judd, I think his name was. He was the New York fire chaplain who died at the World Trade Center. And they had his funeral at a church on the East 30s near Madison Square Garden, where I think he was based. But long story short, they had put on either side of the block those wooden horses to keep people out. But I got there early, and I went inside the church. So I was in the church. You know, former President Clinton was there, Hillary Clinton was there, the mayor of New York. So, well, when they carried the remains of this victim of 9/11 out of the church, there were hundreds of people, and everyone started singing "God Bless America." And I was very wrapped up in the emotion of that. And I remember putting my hand in my heart. But that was because it was so emotional. There was so much going on in the country. I didn't feel I was being performative. I just did it. But when I'm way up on level 9, before a Bruins game or on the, in that little pie thing in the corner for a Celtics game or on the press box at Fenway, I just stand. And I think it was okay with Strahan.
I think we're all a little too sensitive about all these things, and are a little too judgmental sometimes about what we think other people should or should not do. It's like taking a knee. It's like going down on a knee for the national anthem, which, probably cost some guys their careers in pro football. And we're just all a little oversensitive, I think, about these things. And we don't worry about other people in other countries, what they do with their anthem. We don't observe the people in Great Britain, how they stand for their anthem, or in Russia, how they stand for their anthem. We just are very self-critical about what we do and how we react, which seems to be a little over the top, actually. But it's an interesting point to bring up. I think I do agree with that. I probably should do this commercial here. Let me throw this in, if you guys don't mind. But I want to ask you this question as we go along here. This is about Cold Springs RV, and they're located in Ware, New Hampshire, which is
Where?
Ware, New Hampshire. Steve, you know where Ware, New Hampshire is.
I do.
And it's north of Kingsborough and west of Goffstown, basically. But let's say you guys could take a camper for 2 weeks from Cold Springs RV. They have next year's models, and they're arriving every day. They have pop-ups and travel trailers, fifth wheelers, and motorhomes. Which one? You guys could each take one. Okay, this is a little twist on the usual commercial, Lynchy. So
I thought I asked the question.
I know, but this is different. This was a different day. We had trouble getting you on the show, so it was just we had to improvise. We had to make other plans, and that's just the way. So the point was, each one of you guys can take a camper for 2 weeks. Okay, it's on us. You got to pay some of the gas, but it's on us. So tell us where you'd go for the 2 weeks in that camper. Steve, you might as well go first and give Mike a chance to think about it.
I'd go to Seattle because I made that trip once, and it was a lot of fun. And you get to stop at Mount Rushmore, Little Bighorn, Deadwood. You get to see some cool places. You see some great scenery, and I want to make that trip again in my lifetime. And as to is Zappy living or dead?
Oh, I don't. Is who?
Living, the companion I take with me, must that person be alive?
I know that doesn't matter. No, take whoever.
This is going to be a little cliche, but Abraham Lincoln. I've always found him a fascinating character to read about.
Well, he's busy prosing at Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, he was. and to play, you kind of took my joke away.
Oh, sorry.
Because I wanted to be at Mount Rushmore with Abe Lincoln and look up and says, "Well, how'd they do?" Like that.
Okay, still a good joke.
Yeah,
good one.
I would take the route of Lewis and Clark. We drive to St. Louis, then we'd follow the Missouri River and just see, what kind of. I mean, they made it back and forth. They took a party of 25, I think. Only one person died, and that was kind of amazing that they did that. So I'd kind of like to see that. You're gonna fly me back from.
If you want, of course. If that's part of the deal. Yeah, you're that important.
Where they wound up. And who I take with me? One is both of them have unanswered questions. One would be Lee Harvey Oswald. I just want to know.
Oh my God!
I know that's a little heavy, so let's drop that. But
let's go on a car trip with an alleged assassin.
All right, let's forget about
shotgun.
But he. All right, I'm Malcolm Butler. Who we riding shotgun?
Oh, that's okay.
Malcolm Butler.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't let him out of the. We have the special lock that I could lock from the driver's side, and I wouldn't let him out of the camper until he told me what exactly happened and why he didn't play in that Eagles Super Bowl. How's that, Bob? All right?
That's good. That's really good. Both of you guys have you get A's today, okay? Or
Am I going
C's.
to be allowed in the show next week, or
Yeah,
are
of
you
course.
just-
No,
You
absolutely.
could have Belichick in there, and you could ask him about Malcolm Butler, and he'd say, "We're on to the Pacific Northwest."
Right. I would definitely go to the Grand Canyon if you ask me, but no one asked me, so that's just the way it goes. Cold Springs,
So-
the doors are always open. So these campers, when they come back, there are used campers there, and maybe you get the camper that Steve or Mike took, and you can vacuum it out and get a great deal on it. So if you want to see the latest in camping, go to Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire, destination for all things camping. It'd be great if you could actually do that, right? I'm thinking about renting a camper and going down to Hilton Head for this
Can I
winter.
ask Lynchy one more question about this?
Of course, Steve, this is the show.
You've chosen Lee Harvey Oswald as your driving companion on this great adventure, and you're pulling out of the parking lot, and you're not even on the pike yet. And Oswald says, "I know what you want to ask me, and here's what happened." He tells you the whole story, tells you the whole thing, and you aren't even in Worcester yet, and he's told you the whole story. Now, what do you do for the next 3 months?
I still get lots of questions. I was like,
Okay.
how did you pick the Texas Book Depository?
Okay.
Who did you act alone? How did you get in there? How did you get past security? How'd you get up to the sixth floor? How long had you been festering this animosity for the United States of America, for President John Kennedy? One question would feed to another.
I just think that you get a couple of weeks out. He's answered all those questions, and now you're talking about his favorite movie, and it just gets kind of boring.
You mind if I jump in here?
No, I want to jump off this thing right here because you were saying how Gronk reminds you of the past, and the Patriots are still alive. Bill Belichick, has he surprised you with his engagement to this new role in the media? His frankness, which we didn't see publicly for 20-something years here in New England. Have you been surprised? Have you been disappointed? Have you been it's just okay?
Is that for me?
It's for you, Buck. Yeah.
I'm going I think too much praise is being heaped on him for his candor. I also get lost he didn't talk to the media. Now he's in the media and he's talking. Well, that's because he's got a different job. As the coach, it being sparkly and revelatory wasn't part of his job, even though some people think it is part of the job. Now he's got a media gig, and I don't have an issue with that. I don't think he's been that interesting. I think as far as the Patriots go, he's been doing a lot of score settling, and I think Kraft started it. Kraft can't let it alone. He was going, "Oh, blame me. It's all my fault. I should have had checks and balances in place, and none of this would have happened if I did." That's like blaming himself, but really blaming Belichick. Like it was all. What he's really saying is it was all Bill. He screwed it all up. And if I only had checks and balances. Well, I like to think that someone who's reached the heights in business that he has had all kinds of checks and balances. And he's always had checks and balances on Belichick. If he didn't like it, he could have fired him. That's the balance in the checks. So I think Kraft started taking shots at Belichick. There's this whole Belichick Kraft thing that's going on between the seams, and I'm bored with it, frankly.
Think Belichick's done a better job than Brady?
Yeah, I would give him that. I'm not saying Belichick hasn't been informative and entertaining. He has. I think he's good at it. I just don't think it's groundbreaking and historic. I think that the praise delivered to Belichick has been over the top. There's something about Brady that it's just so perfect and so it's.
Yeah, I know.
You kind of want him to. You want your analyst to sort of be your drinking buddy. You want your analyst to be the guy next to you at the bar that you.
It's a really good analogy, Steve.
So.
All right, let me ask you guys this question. We did the show with Orr, Bird, and Williams. Okay, it was,
Yes.
you know what we attempted to do. It just
Yes.
it happened by accident. Who did we leave out, and who would you put in? Who? Not to say there's any limit to the number of people, but who would you put in if we had a chance to do the show over again for all of us?
Well, there's only one player who could sit in that group. It would be Bill Russell. Maybe Havlicek, Kuzi, maybe Yaz. But when you're talking about players who you could wage an argument that they're the greatest to ever play the game, certainly Bobby Orr, certainly Larry Bird, absolutely Ted Williams, the greatest hitter that ever lived. I think the only other guy you could sit up there would be Bill Russell.
What about Brady?
Was Brady playing for the Patriots then? Or we?
No, I'm just not talking about then. I'm just talking about now.
No, absolutely, yeah. Brady would absolutely have his. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. If you're going to do it again, obviously Ted Williams is no longer with us, and neither is Russell. But if you were to do it again, absolutely Tom Brady. I mean, when you get into that whole Mount Rushmore,
would you put in Ortiz or Flutie?
Sam Kennedy and I have had this discussion. There are a lot of people who would want you to believe that David Ortiz is the quote-unquote greatest player in Red Sox history. He's not. Those laurels belong to Ted Williams and Ted alone. And then Sam said something, and I've used it. Would you say that David Ortiz is the most important player in Red Sox history? And I would say yes. They hadn't won a World Series since 86 years. He helped them win 3 of them. He lifted up the team in his shoulders. He got dramatic hits. He had a vibrant personality. He was like a magnet to get people into Fenway Park. And in that respect, and he's forever changed the way we look at the Red Sox. So he's the most important player. So upon reflection, yes, I would put David Ortiz there too.
What do you think, Mike?
I would put me in there. I want to spice things up, but if I couldn't get a pass to get into Soldier Field Road, I would put Brady, Ortiz, and you might, I hate to say it, you might want to put Belichick in there.
That's a separate. Let's put that in a separate category. If we were going to,
well, if you're putting Belichick in, you got to put Red in.
Well, I was going to say, if we were going to do a show like that, the 3 of us were going to do a show like that, and we're sitting around producing it, and we wanted to do it on coaches.
Well, if I'm going to do it, Bob, if I'm going to do this show, I'd like a nice boat. I'd like you to buy me a power boat. Can you do that for me?
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
That's kind of an inside joke, isn't it?
Yeah. It's good.
Don't say a private airplane, Buck, because I'll come back with the with the joke about flying to Fort Myers that day.
Oh, geez. That's Mike Lynch. Go ahead and say it. That's your big banquet joke. Go ahead.
Right, well, I was sitting there in row 17, and we was flying to spring training, and Buck was, as he is, in row 1A, 1A and 1B, and Buck is just stretching his legs, going to use maybe the men's room up the back of the plane, and we're probably over North Carolina, about 2 hours into the flight, and Buck says, I said, "Hey, Steve." He goes, "Hey." He says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Have you been here the entire time?" I said, "No, they airlifted me in over like Pennsylvania, and they just dropped me in." And,
usually, when you tell it, it's Charlotte, but whatever.
Right. But it was kind of funny. It was, and the minute it came out of his mouth, he knew it was a stupid question, and we laugh about it every time we get together, no matter where we are.
Well, the part 2 to that is, and again, if those have heard it before, I apologize. When the great Johnny Pesky died, and we were at his wake, and Johnny would appreciate this, so I'm not disrespecting Johnny, but this was the private wake, and there was still 1 million people in line, and Lynchy and I were like 8 and 9 in line, and it's like 100 degrees, a very, very hot August day. Was it in Swampscott?
Lynn.
And And then all of a sudden, I noticed way in the back of the room, the line is going through this room down the hall, and I say, "Hey, look, there's Milt Schmidt." Now, Milt Schmidt was 94 years old, and it's 100 degrees out. And the best I could offer was, "Hey, look, there's Milt Schmidt." And then Lynchy says, "Oh, for crying, he shouldn't be." And then and then I tag along, and we pull Milt out of line and bring him up to the front. And I don't know if you remember, but the Cardinal was there. Cardinal O'Malley was right there with David Pesky, and we brought Milt up right to the front of the line. And I turned to you and I said, "That's why you went to Harvard and I went to UMass." That's like a running joke between us.
Oh, I remember that. Well. We turned around. We said, "Poor Milt. Milt's at least an hour away from snaking."
No,
through
you
the-
said poor Milt. I said, "Look, there's Milt."
So who would we put down for coaches? If we had, would it be Belichick, Red, and who else?
Well, Francona
Yeah, Francona and
and
Harry. Probably Harry.
Harry never won a cup as a coach. Well, he did win 1970.
Put Cherry down there.
No, I put Harry there. Just lifetime achievement. You could argue for Dick Williams, the '67 Red Sox, changed the course of history in Boston. And I don't want to go back to Bill Kerrigan in the early 20th century because it's just so hard to wrap your hands around those early coaches and managers and so forth. But I think if Dick Johnson were here from the Sports Museum, he would say, "No, you got to have Bill Kerrigan in there." And but on the Red Sox, certainly it would be Francona, maybe Dick Williams. Celtics is Reds in a class by himself. I would put Harrison in there and Bill Belichick.
It's a pretty good group.
Yeah. Am I missing anybody?
No, with you, Parcells.
Yeah, Parcells should not be in that group, but he should be in the Patriots Hall of Fame, and that's been a.
Well, talk to Lynchy. He's one of the nominators. You know,
Are you,
is, right?
Lynchy?
Yeah.
Why are you keeping Parcells out of the Patriots?
Yeah,
Hall
why,
of Fame?
Mike?
I'm not. I always
Parcells
tell him,
out?
man,
No, Mike, he's not
you
in
know,
the Hall of Fame, and you're a nominator. Why are you keeping him out?
There's a on the
Is there
nominating committee. There's a cartel of anti Bill Parcells guys, and they always make.
It's called the owner. It's called the owner who created the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's there. He's up above the curtain, pulling the strings, but there's a very strong anti-Bill Parcells cartel and contingent, and they are quite vocal when names are put out. Anybody can raise their hand and say, "I nominate Stanley Morgan because A, B, C, D." And I nominate Leon Gray because of A, B, C, D. I nominate Chuck Fairbanks because of, and then.
But the ownership could, with a wave of the hand, dismiss all that.
Yes. Yes.
Didn't they do that with Tom Brady? Isn't this supposed to be a waiting?
Did it with Tom Brady? Yep. They did it with Dante Scarnecchia. Did it with.
And who was the woman who passed? That was the head of the cheerleaders. God forgive me, I can't think of her name.
Blonde woman, Terry.
I apologize. I wrote a piece on her for the Athletic.
Yes, she. Yes, with her too. So, it's kind of predictable every year, especially now because, 2, 3, or 4 names come up and they're all big names: Teddy Bruschi, Troy Brown, Ty Law, Mike Vrabel, Vince Wilfork. I mean, there's
don't mention Adam Vinatieri. Right? Whatever you do, don't mention Adam Vinatieri.
Vinatieri is, he's not in there yet. I don't think, right? No,
how's that possible? I mean, how's that possible?
Well, how's Bill Parcells now? He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I know that's
get into the Patriots Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. You've acquitted yourself.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go to a doctor's appointment, so I'm gonna have to.
All right, let me read one quick commercial here, Bob. Then you can go.
Buck, you were fantastic today.
Hey, Buck, hold on. Hey, Buck, are you looking for a new vehicle? Looking for a new car?
I am not. I'm very happy with the car I have. But if I needed one, I would go to this place.
But if you are, go where Lobel and Lynchy go. Go see our good friend George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. We've been customers for years. I'm going there on Thursday and Friday, by the way.
Oh, I've been to Lexington. It's right off the bike path on Mass Ave.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
You're
it is.
absolutely right. Very right. It's
I was with George Saturday night, Lynchy.
you were.
Yeah, in the beautiful downtown Lowell.
Wow.
Yeah, how about that?
I was at the Andover Exeter football game.
Well, I was at
No,
Celtic
I
Thunder concert.
bought my car at a different Toyota dealership before I learned this information.
Oh no,
Great,
this
George
is
Gray.
important, Steve.
Next time, go to see George Gray. He'll treat you right. They're family-owned, operated dealership that we trust, and you can trust them as well. Go see the big wheel, we call him, George Gray, 409 Mass Ave, Lexington, Toyota. I'm going over there. In fact, I got a service light on my dashboard, and I'm afraid that I'm going to be stuck somewhere. So I'm going to
Probably your
go.
seatbelt. Buckley your seatbelt.
So I can bring my car there for tune-ups and stuff.
Oh,
Yes, you
they specialize in that. The services, they're
Okay, I'll next time I need a tune-up.
so good.
Yeah,
So
go
good.
there. Call George. Tell him you're coming. He's got 3 sons that work for him that are always around there. There's a big guy named Mike in the service department. He's a good guy, so go see him as well.
All right,
All right, Buck.
it's a pleasure as always, gentlemen.
Yeah, you were great. Thank you so much for being with us.
Buck. You're awesome.
And by the way, I think the only reason I'm here today is because Joey Sly kicked that wobbly field goal on Sunday, and I texted Lynchy and I said that's a Mike Lynch special because that's the field goal that beat Yale in the Yale Bowl back in the day. And the difference being that yours was from like 16 feet away, and his yeah,
Well, it was 26 yards, and as one of my teammates said, "Hey, that kick would have been good from 27 yards."
All right, take care, guys.
Buck,
All right,
thanks a lot,
you
Cal.
guys.
Folks.
Appreciate it.
Enjoyed it. Thank you, and make sure you follow us on UnAnchoredBoston.com.